paints, and today we are going to transform this brown end table into a black finish with American Paint Company products. So come along and see what I create. So the first step is to remove any of the hardware and to give the project a good wipe before you get started painting. Let's get started here. So I have given, I just took a wet one and wiped the whole piece down, and then I took off the handles on the drawers. And what I'm going to do now is open my can of American Paint Company's Cannonball, and I'm going to scoop it into a separate container. Now, American Paint Company paints, they're all natural, and so when you open up your can, there's no smell to them. Well, it smells like clay, it smells like dirt. And so I just put a couple teaspoons into my bowl. And I've had my brush, I'm using Vintiquity's brushes. I've used this one for years. And so I've had it just sitting in a little container of water for probably about a half an hour, and that just really gets your bristles nice and wet. And then you just kind of get out the extra water from your brush. And now you can bend the bristles and they work really good. I love these brushes because they hold a lot of paint, and so they work good when you're doing bigger projects. So I'm going to dip my brush into the paint, clean off my spoon here. Okay, and then we're just gonna go to town. What happened this winter is we bought a king-size bed, and just the bed, not the whole set. And so now my end tables don't match. Okay, so if you can see in, I'm not sure if you can see from this angle, see how it's coming off the surface? That's just showing you that my bristles are too wet. So once it's dry, we'll go back over it and cover that up. So that is one of the things with using American Paint Company's products is you can get your brush wet, and you can use lots of water with American Paint Company, but you will notice that if you're using too much, it's not going to adhere completely. And so what we're actually doing is we're creating a base, and then we can go back over it once it's completely dried and it'll fill all in. Just keep that in mind if you mix your paints with water, that this can happen, especially if the surface is slippery like this one, okay? But don't get freaked out and think, it's not sticking. It's just gonna create the first layer, and it will fill in once we do the second layer. Similar to like glass, it would be similar to plastic, it would be similar to IKEA furniture. Anything with a varnish on it is kind of the similar surface that we're painting today. Of course, the easiest surface to paint is raw wood. That is by far the easiest. But American Paint Company products do stick, they do adhere to any surface. And if it's looking a little bit like this guy is, where it's like, almost looks like it's beading, just remember that you're just painting like a primer surface, a first layer surface. So it will fill in when we come back and do the next layer. So also when you're painting a surface that's pretty flat, I like to just, I'll get the paint on the project, and then the final wipe that I do is just from one side to the other, nice long brush stroke. So you get it all nice and covered like this, Okay. Okay. Well, I guess we've got to do this side here too. So it is pretty fun when you start thinking that American Paint Company adheres to any surface, and when you start going to garage sales and looking at your thrift store, you start to see all these pieces just a little bit differently, because you think of what colors and all the possibilities you can actually paint them with. It's kind of fun. So there we have the first layer on this end table. We're just gonna let it dry completely before we come back and do the second layer. So again, when you're painting a slippery surface like this one, don't get all worried when you're putting the first layer on that it's starting to look like it's not actually sticking. What we're doing is we're creating a barrier. So it works the same if you're doing like a mason jar or like an IKEA mirror. It might start to look like it's actually not sticking, but don't worry. Let it completely dry, and then we'll come back over it with the next layer. So you can see on this guy, it's doing the same at the top. It's not really fully sticking. So we'll just let that dry. Completely. I love that you don't have to be a professional painter to transform pieces in your home. Once you get the courage, then the sky's the limit. We always suggest that working with American Paint, that you start off on small decor pieces, and then once you've got the courage, you can jump into bigger pieces. I mean, still today, if I'm painting projects still today like this set, I do still wonder, ooh, am I gonna mess it up? But you can't mess it up. Create. It's all about creating. There, that layer just really filled her in. Really filled it in nice. And also when it's drying, it's gonna dry from like your nice rich black to more of a dull finish. So don't worry if you think that you picked the wrong color. It will pop again once we seal it up. I used to always do that, actually quite a bit when the kids were young. I would paint all their bedroom sets while they were napping, rocking chairs, all sorts of things, end tables, dressers, coffee tables. My piano. Okay, so now that I've got this one nice and covered, my last little swipe is going to be from the top to the bottom. We're going to do it. It's where you go from the top to the bottom, nice long, and then you go from side to side. And it does kind of like a linen look. And here's that first layer, both on the drawer and the side of the end table, that you might look at and wonder why it's not sticking. But that again is a result of the slippery surface and too much water. So don't be worried about that. Just let it completely dry and it will fill in on the next layer. And then now I'm gonna do brush strokes from the top to the bottom and then from the left to the right, just over the whole thing again. So I'm just gonna finish doing the second layer on these drawers and then we'll let it completely dry and check to see if we think it needs one more layer before we add our top coat liquid sealer. In this dresser, you can still see there's some parts on the front of the drawers where they're a little bit wet still. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the top and do the sides and then we'll end with the drawers. And this, so first step was to paint and the second step is to seal it. So I'm going to seal with American Paint Company's liquid top coat. And I'm actually going to use some of the black mica from American Paint Company. And I'm going to mix it into the top coat and I'm going to apply it on top of the paint. And this is just gonna make a deeper black finish, okay? So when you mix the mica with the top coat, the ratio is about 3:1. So you want more sealer than the powder. So I just kind of eyeball everything that I do. So, but roughly it's about 3:1, okay? And I'm going to be using the Vintiquity's little brush for glazing. And again, I just set the brush into my bucket of water just to loosen and soften up the bristles a bit. You can take a paper towel and dry it off when you're done, or your handy dandy wet ones, just to make sure that it is not drippy, but the bristles are nice and bendy. And then we're just gonna stir up our mixture. And we're going to just brush this on. Now when you're applying the top coat, you don't want it to go on where it is white. You want it to be clear and you don't want to overwork it. So if it is not clear, just nice long brush strokes across the top until it goes in, but don't overwork it. If you overwork it, that just means you're just going to keep lifting it off the surface and it won't leave like a nice solid look. You'll be able to see the blotches if you overwork it. And this sealer from American Paint Company is all natural. There are no chemicals in this product. You don't want it to get too hot and you don't want it to get too cold. This cannot freeze, similar to your paints. Your paints can't freeze. So you want to keep it in a nice, dry, cool spot. I've had some tell me that they keep it in their fridge, but in the back of their fridge, just to keep it nice and cool. Side. Now, because we're painting on a slippery surface, you don't want to press too hard and you don't want too much liquid in your brush. So just nice pressure when applying, not too hard. The top coat sealer gives more of a shine finish, whereas APC wax gives more of a fine furniture finish. We like using the top coat because it is the easiest sealer and goes on the easiest, and it's the most durable. And then I'll do the drawer fronts. So the kids are about to get home from the bus here shortly, so I'd like to finish this end table. The top, it hasn't completely dried, but what I would like to do is make, I would like to use the gray glaze, the black glaze, and I want to use the clear glaze with a little bit of Pacific fog in it, mixed in it. And I want to just create kind of like a barnwood gray tone look just for these two drawers. And I'm hoping to get it to look similar to what my headboard and the headboard and the end board look on our bed. So that's what I'm going to try to do before the kids get off the bus.